Matt, a very good afternoon to you.
Hi, Mike.
Welcome to Off Air with Mike Graham.
Great to be here.
This is possibly the first of many of these that we're going to be doing. And we're going to talk about the election. But we're not just going to talk about the election. We're going to talk about other elections as well and some of the highlights and lowlights that we've seen in our careers. Because Matt Kelly and I used to work together on Daily Mirror. And you are now rather expansively titled the publisher of the New European.
I am.
So normally speaking, you're not the sort of guy that I would want to talk to as far as,
Well, because you're afraid of engaging in vigorous debate. You only want to hear people who agree with you.
It's not strictly true that I don't want to talk to you. But I mean, normally speaking, you would be one of those snobbish people who live in a big house in North London, who want to remain in the European Union because it's better for your, future and it's better for your business,
What
right?
a shocking set of criteria.
That turns out it's all true.
Yeah.
But I mean, why do you want to stay in the European Union?
I want to stay in the European Union because I think people's span of memory has contracted an awful lot. And I think the European Union has brought us 70 years of relative peace and prosperity. I think our future as a trading bloc is going to be much more secure as part of a big trading bloc when you've got a world where you've got two superpowers growing, the United States and China. I think the European Union has got a good chance of being powerful within that conversation. But the United Kingdom on its own, I worry about that. I also worry about the dysfunction of the United Kingdom and Scotland wanting to go. Northern Ireland, I'm certain, will go back and the Republic will be unified.
There might be people who would say that's a good thing, though.
Well, I mean, in terms of the Irish thing, cards on the table, I think it's a good thing because, I'm a Liverpool born and bred Catholic, and I have long thought that there's an obvious country there called Ireland, and that you look back at the history.
The rugby team plays now as a United Ireland team, which doesn't seem to have upset the apple cart particularly, does it?
But I do recognise that it's very, very contentious, obviously, and this is another reason why I'm keen to stay in the European Union, is the Good Friday Agreement wasn't about solving trade issues and worrying about checking the price of tomatoes going across a border. It was about giving the Catholics in Northern Ireland a sense that they could transit in and out freely, so they felt that they were closer to the Republic, and it gave the nationalists the sense that they were still part of the United Kingdom. So it's a very fragile situation, and that's where I think, it was remarkable how little the Irish question came up before the referendum, and of course it's dominated the conversation.
There are people who now say that they mentioned it, but I can't remember anybody mentioning it.
A single person mentioning it. And again, cards on the table, it didn't even occur to me that was going to be the issue.
No.
I mean, I did think logistically.
Well, I think also we all didn't know as much about the Good Friday Agreement perhaps as we should have done.
Correct.
Because all the people in Northern Ireland did know about it because they all saw it and actually kind of almost signed off on it, didn't they?
But that's probably a symptom of it working. The fact that we weren't all obsessing about the Northern Ireland, the Republic of Ireland issue meant that it was working. And I do really worry that this referendum, whatever you feel about we should remain or we should leave, and I understand the arguments on both sides, and I understand why a lot of people voted to leave. But I do think one thing we can probably all agree on is that we are unsettling something that was quite stable, stable.
I mean, I heard a new opinion, funnily enough, today, which I haven't heard before, and it was from a guy who said he voted to leave. But he said, I voted to leave, but he said, you know what, now I'm kind of just like,
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of people are making that noise. Now, I don't mean that means that we shouldn't leave, because, my position has always been people voted to leave, we should leave. So that's kind of where I come from. But there's an awful lot of people who are now going, look, we're 3 weeks away from an election.
Yeah.
Can we really actually stomach another 3 weeks of all of this politicking, all of this campaigning, all of these bloody giveaways? The idea that you've got, free broadband coming from the Labour Party. Oh, suddenly, let's not worry about that manifesto promise. Let's make another promise to give 58 more billion away to the waspy women, because we just thought that Boris Johnson said he wasn't going to do that. I mean, what are they going to end up giving away?
I mean, I think they're in a desperate race to try and attract some attention to politics again, because everybody is bored sick of it.
Yeah.
And I think, we were just
Although you say that, 7 million people watched that first ITV debate, which is an extraordinary number of people.
I don't know what else was on at the time, but it was kind of...
Well, if you're watching this next time.
There is a personality entertainment value between Johnson and Corbyn. I worry...
I didn't think it was that good, actually.
No, I thought it was deathly boring. And they were so cagey and they were anxious not to slip up. But I worry that people are fed up. A lot of people in the real world out there have given up trying to understand exactly what's going on, because it is ferociously complex.
Yeah. Well, it's also very, very difficult to get at the truth.
Yes.
You know, the truth has been somehow hidden. I did a little experiment, funnily enough, on Friday night, last weekend, because what I didn't do was I didn't want to, after having done 5 radio shows very much about the political situation, I didn't want to sit and spend 2 hours of my Friday night watching the 4 prospective leaders of each party talking to various members of an audience on Question Time. So instead, I had my Twitter on and I was reading people's impressions of what was happening on Twitter. And once I watched it, because I had to watch it the next day and catch up with it, it was completely off the pace. I mean, because depending on who was tweeting, you know, either Jo Swinson was doing really well or she was crap, Boris Johnson doing really badly or was brilliant, you know, Jeremy Corbyn answering all the questions or not answering any questions. I mean, literally, if you were following that, you would have no clue about what was going on.
I think Twitter has just become this very polarised far spectrum and a load of journalists in there because it serves their purpose. But it seems to find a rational opinion on Twitter seems like finding a needle in a haystack.
Very difficult. Yeah. I mean, incredibly, the thing that the main thing I took away from this shows you how shallow I've become. Or you might say I was always shallow. Is that in the first debate, Jeremy Corbyn had this massively thick lens in the right side of his glasses. You see it?
Yes,
and so when you were looking right at him, you literally couldn't see his eye because it was that thick. It was a real like bottom of a bottle type thing, right? Guess what? On the Friday night show, he's changed his glasses.
Right.
And he's now wearing a very thin piece of glass, which looks exactly the same as the one on the left. Now, I made this remark on Twitter. Everybody went nuts. You know, is that all you've got? What's it going to do with you? I said, well, I think it's obviously important enough for him to change his glasses because you realise the other ones looked a bit stupid. I don't know what his eye problem is, but he's a man of 70 years old. You know, he may have a problem with his right eye. I don't really care, but I would rather I knew about it.
Well, there's an interesting thing about how he has changed quite dramatically in the last 4 or 5 years, and in terms of his willingness to play the politics game.
I mean, he dresses a lot better than he used to.
Well, you remember Cameron saying, you know, put a tie on and straighten your shirt or whatever it was. And I then remember Corbyn doing a cover shot for GQ magazine, which was, it seemed like an impossibility that Jeremy Corbyn would be on the cover of GQ, but there he was, very smart. And ever since, he's paid a lot more attention to his...
And he started wearing the red tie and all of that.
Very bright red tie. And so, you know, it's an indication that somebody said to him, mate, people can't see your eyes. Oh, right, I'll change my glasses.
And as much as we all would prefer politics not to be like that, I'm afraid it is. If you go on television and you look like a sack of potatoes, wearing an old pair of shoes and an old coat, I'm afraid people are not going to listen to you in the same way.
Well, I guess we're going to find out, aren't we?
Well, we are, because you've come here dressed as the new kind of sexy young entrepreneur from the tech world of California,
I wish any of those adjectives were true.
Well, compared to me, you're young, you know, seriously. And I've put a jacket on. Whenever I put a jacket on, everyone thinks I'm either going to a court appearance or something.
Or a job interview.
Or a job interview. They always go, you look smart. I mean, I spent most of my working life dressed like this, in a suit. And until relatively recently, a tie as well. I've got hundreds of ties at home, right?
Well, on the Daily Mirror, I mean, Piers Morgan would take you aside when he was the editor of the Daily Mirror and castigate you if you weren't wearing a tie. You know, what do you think you're doing? You're working on a farm or something? You know,
until, of course, it happened, the first guy who decided not to wear a tie, who I think was Ellis Watson, who was one of the sort of management bosses.
Right,
and then suddenly everybody stopped wearing a tie. The day that I knew it was the wrong thing to do was when Eugene Duffy, who was the managing editor, didn't wear a tie. And I thought, you just don't even look right. You look like a coach driver, didn't he?
Well, if you saw Eugene now, he's the editor of the Bermuda Post now.
The Bermuda Post.
So he's wearing shorts all day long in a polo shirt.
Yeah, I mean, I saw him going there and I thought, how does he get that job? I mean, that's not a bad
he's
sort of
obviously
retirement
done
scenario,
something very well in a previous life.
Talking of the Daily Mirror, we should talk about the days gone by when we've had, because this is a pretty boring election so far.
Isn't it?
There's not much happening, right? I mean, the most exciting thing I think that I saw happening was people shouting IRA scum at Jeremy Corbyn when he got off. Because I don't know why they picked Birmingham as the launch, and the date of the launch was the 45th anniversary of the Birmingham pub bombings.
That's right.
I mean, that does seem a bit weird. But literally nothing really memorable has happened, is it?
Nothing. I mean, Johnson getting heckled a few times.
But you know, he gets that all the time.
Of course,
but I mean, remember the John Prescott moment? I think you and I were both at the Mirror when that happened.
He lamped that fella.
When he lamped that guy in North Wales. Because I think I was running the Welsh Mirror, so I mean, it was even better for us.
Well, Alistair Campbell, who writes for the Daily Mirror, he's our editor for the New European. Forgive me. Is our editor at large, and he tells the story about how he got the call. And the election was going fine, and then any call referencing John Prescott was always a little bit dodgy. Campbell takes the call, he's in with Tony, and he's going, what? He's done what?
This must have been like the thick of it.
Yeah, no, it absolutely was. Yeah. And John Prescott's just hit a voter in the face.
Although it actually worked out pretty well for him.
I tell you what, my respect for him went up 10 times. Because what did he do? He threw an egg at him,
didn't he? He chucks an egg at him. And I think in Prescott's defence, I think he said later, he felt this thing hit him.
Yes.
And he felt sort of moisture. So as far as he knew,
he was bleeding.
He was bleeding. He could have been hit by a rock. I mean, because a boiled egg is a pretty... No, sorry, not a boiled egg. But an egg of any kind is quite hard.
For sure. And
he just... I love the fact that his first instinct was just to lamp the guy.
But Prescott was a really handy boxer when he was in the... when he was a chief steward, on the ships.
On the ships, because they always used to take the piss out of him, didn't they? The old... the guys on the
Tories.
The Tories used to go, gin and tonic, please.
Yeah, but what did they call it? The Giovanni. Nicholas Soames used to say, gin and tonic Giovanni.
Right. Yeah, Nicholas Soames, the man who, of course, was weeping because he was thrown out of the Tory party. I mean, give me a small break. You know? I mean, you might think that I generally have more sort of time for the Tories than I do for the Labour Party. Not true. Individually, there's plenty of people on the Labour Party that I really quite like. And there's plenty of people on the Tory party that I really don't like.
It would be great, wouldn't it, if there was some sort of platform where politicians could be normal for a little while.
Yeah.
And you could see, because the truth is, most of them are pretty normal people.
Many of them are very, very nice people.
And they're anxious about things, and they worry about their job. A time like this, a lot of them are genuinely worried about their jobs and how are they going to pay the mortgage and all of this business. And I know about 6 or 7 MPs pretty well, and they're all really nice people who you'd love to have around having a chat with. But then
I think the thing is though, I think a lot of them do get into it for the right reasons. But then something happens. And they get eaten up by the sort of party machine. And there's certain things they then have to sacrifice. And they make that deal either with themselves or with the devil or with the head of the party. And they end up not actually doing what they originally went in there to do.
That's right. And I think in recent years, particularly in the Labour Party, that has firmed up, that adherence to our way or it's the highway for you, which has always struck me as massively ironic because Corbyn rebelled against Labour for 600 times, I think, or something like this. And Campbell always says, we as New Labour were perfectly tolerant of dissent and having people like that in the party because we recognised it was a broad church.
And he said that, funnily enough, to me when I was talking to him about it because I said to him, but you could afford to be tolerant because they had such a massive majority. I mean, as we've seen, the reason we're in this spot as we are now is because the government literally could not govern the country because they had no majority.
How do you think it's going to play out there?
Well, if you've got a massive majority, then you can pretty much do what you like. I mean, there was a poll at the weekend which said the Tories are going to get a majority of 48 seats. If they get that, that would be massive.
Well, I mean, in the context of today's politics, 48 would be an enormous majority.
I mean, you'd literally they could sit there for 5 years. They could not worry about the repealing of the Fixed Term Parliament Act and just go, well, we're in for 5 years, guys, and we don't need anybody else's help. We don't need the DUP. We don't need the Brexit Party. We don't need anyone.
I have to say, I'm convinced that whatever the polls are saying, they'll be completely wrong. They were wrong on the referendum. They were wrong in 2015 on the election, and they were massively underestimated Corbyn's vote in 2017. So why we should fall back and expect them to be right now? The only thing I would say with some confidence is that, and this is more gut than looking at the polls, but it seems impossible to me that Corbyn will win a majority for Labour. That's the only thing I would say just seems like an outright non-starter.
The only other thing that's interesting, of course, is the fact that the more people say the Tories are going to get a big win, the less people will bother to go out and vote because that's one of those great kind of truisms, isn't it, of any election. If you think... or if the people think that you're winning it hands down, they don't bother going out. And in this particular time of year, you don't need many excuses not to bother.
I think the turnout may be very low. I mean, imagine if it's pouring with rain. December the 12th, quite likely to be cold and rainy.
Snowing in some places.
Lots of pensioners won't get out.
Do you know, this is one of the other things they're saying about the counts. In places like the Highlands of Scotland, they might not be able to get the actual ballot boxes to the mainland where I think they count them.
So there could be some
there might
procedural
be all sorts of nonsense going on the night where you go, well, we haven't heard from anyone up in Orkney or Shetland. I mean, it's probably going to be what you would expect it to be, but you don't know until you've counted it, right? And it may be 2 or 3 days before you can get to them. I mean, there are times when you can't...
hanging chads in the States.
That's right. I do remember the hanging chads. I mean, that's another great one, isn't it? When you had the whole of a nation's kind of politicians and pundits getting it all wrong. That was interesting, actually, because remember, that was what first made them stop calling the early elections from the exit polls.
That's right.
Because they got that completely wrong, didn't they? Because Al Gore was winning Florida, then he wasn't winning Florida, and then eventually he lost Florida.
That's right.
To Bush, didn't he?
That's right. And do you remember the front page of the Daily Mirror, Richard Wallace's front page? I
No.
think it was the editor. It was a brilliant front page, and it said something like, had a picture of George Bush and stars and stripes down the side, and it said, how can 56 million something people
Oh, yes, I do remember that.
be so dumb?
Yeah.
And I have to say, you now look back at George W. Bush, and the idea that he was an idiot seems that's how far we've fallen, you know.
Yeah.
He seems like an intellectual giant.
I mean, I
now.
was thinking exactly that just the other day. Tony Blair raised his head again and came out and got an absolute shellacking from all and sundry because everybody now hates Tony Blair.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people, funnily
No.
enough. I mean, I actually thought Tony Blair did an amazing job. Of course, Iraq was a mistake, but as he always says, and he did say to the Chilcot Inquiry, everything changed after 9/11.
Yeah.
You know, if you had spoken to anyone in this country after 9/11 and said it was the Iraqis that did it, they'd be going, right, let's go. Let's go right now. We'll go boots and all. We'll take thousands of troops in there and we'll take them all out.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
You're absolutely right. And I think that people don't really appreciate just how toxic Tony Blair is as a character now. And he can't go out for a
even
meal,
he doesn't realise it.
Yeah, because, I mean...
How is that? Because you see, that to me seems as though the world has changed.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, yes, they've always been kind of controversial characters, but I think only now is it the case where people will actually come up to you and shout at you in the street.
Yeah, well, maybe, I don't know, to be honest, but what strikes me as odd is that you've got a guy who won 3 general elections for Labour, and the people who hate him the most are the Labour Party, Corbyn's mates.
Absolutely.
Right now, they hate him.
They hate him
I mean,
more than
my
they hate
God,
the Tories.
they hate him more than they hate the Tories. And it seems like the only basis you could really hate him for to that depth is that you feel like he fundamentally challenges some core political belief. But that core political belief must be really extreme if Tony Blair's challenging it, you know. So that's what worries me is that the Labour Party. I've never voted for anybody other than Labour in my life. I won't be doing it this time. I'll vote the Green Party just to give them some support. But they've driven
Wasted
people
vote,
like
of course.
me. Well, you know, it is. But if they stack up and they get a lot of the popular vote or more than they were expecting, then I think it's encouraging. And if anyone gets encouragement at this sort of period of human history, I think it should be somebody who's...
I don't really want to encourage the sort of people that want to stop me going anywhere on a plane.
No, listen, let's separate...
Yeah, but they've accepted the Extinction Rebellion mantra that we're all going to die a horrible death in some kind of fireball in about 10 years' time. Well, you know, we're in a climate...
We might all be grateful by then.
Well, maybe. If we're still waiting to leave the European Union, Jesus Christ.
Imagine if the earth burned up before we left.
I'd be quite happy to throw myself under a truck or something. You know, the bottom line is, right, that the Green Party... I said this to the Green Party the other day. Now that everybody else is green... You know, you guys might as well give up. Because it's a bit like the Brexit Party. If you're going to leave the European Union, the Brexit Party doesn't need to exist anymore.
Yeah.
Similarly, if the Labour Party is calling for a climate emergency, and, you know, as is the Lib Dems, as are the Tories, because even Boris Johnson's fallen for all this rubbish, right? And invited Extinction Rebellion in.
Sorry, just pause there. What's rubbish?
The rubbish about the fact that the Earth is now in absolute serious danger of dying. I'm not talking about global warming. I'm not. I mean, even Jeremy Clarkson has apparently now seen a dry bed of a lake and decided that maybe the Earth's changing after all.
So do you?
Well done, Jeremy.
Don't you believe in climate change?
It's not a question of believing.
Are you a climate change denier?
I'm not a climate change denier. I've been described as one, but that would be wrong, you see, because I don't believe in denying something which isn't there, right?
So you're worse than a denier.
No.
You can't even be bothered denying it.
No, the climate is the climate, okay? It's not changing. Of course it's bloody changing. It changes all the time.
Yeah.
You know, like when you go out today, it might be raining. Tomorrow, it might be sunny, right?
Do you remember that Do you remember that tweet from Donald Trump? He was flying over the Arctic in Air Force One, and he took a photo with his phone outside of the port of the thing, and it was like, obviously it was like loads of ice. And he just tweeted that and said, "So much for global warming."
Well, the thing is, he's got a point, isn't he? You know, the fact that things are changing is normal, right? Because the Earth has been changing ever since it's been in existence, right?
Yeah.
So my point, what I disagree with about climate change is that the people like Greta Thunberg, who doesn't know any more about it than I do, right? Despite the fact that she claims the science is in all agreement.
You have stolen my future.
You have stolen my future. How dare you? She's going to guest edit the Today programme, by the way. I mean, if you didn't want to know how far the BBC has fallen,
I thought it
Radio
get
4 is going to be guest edited. I put a tweet out saying that presumably on that day they won't bother broadcasting because they'll be saving the electricity to save the earth.
I mean, we're on common ground here. She winds me up something rotten.
Yeah, but she is responsible for all of these politicians in every single part of the world and at the UN buying into this bullshit about the fact that basically the earth is going to burn up.
Well, let's put that to one side because we might have differences of opinion there. But I do agree there's a big point about the wokeness of today's politics, where people are, totally afraid of saying something contentious.
As soon as you say anything like I just said, you're immediately a climate change denier, some kind of mad Trumpian crazed person, which I am not, as you well know. But the bottom line for me is that the Green Party have bought into Extinction Rebellion's line. They've bought into the eco line that, we need to do something and we need to do something very quickly in the next 10 years. Now, that leads to some very expensive taxes. It leads to some very different ways of making people live. And it changes people's lives. And I think we shouldn't be quite so cavalier about the fact that, everybody agrees we have to do something. No, everybody doesn't agree that we have to do something because there's no evidence either that by doing whatever it is that we're going to do, it's going to make any difference.
Well, don't you think that the idea that, combustion engines are bad for the atmosphere and they're bad for our health as well.
They may well be.
It seems like, a reasonable suggestion.
But also, combustion engines are far cleaner now than they've ever been.
Yeah,
right?
but they're still, I've got an electric car.
Oh.
And yes.
That's nice for you.
It is nice for me.
Well, everybody can't afford an electric car.
You're absolutely right. But there'll come a point where they will be affordable. And I have to say, once you've driven an electric car, you do look at these other things and think, my God, there's a little fire in there where they're burning petrol.
You may well do, but is that really going to make any difference if everybody's driving electric cars? Because don't forget, you're still using a carbon footprint to make the car.
Yes, but
right, you're still, you're saving yourself some carbon by not burning fossil fuels to make it go.
Yeah.
But there's an awful lot about that car which is not very green.
Well, I spend a lot of time in East Anglia because my day job is chief content officer of a group of local and regional newspapers. And East Anglia is at the forefront of sustainable energy, lots of wind farms. And when you drive down the A11 into Norwich, solar panels everywhere in fields. And I can see a time where we don't have to rely on burning carbon producing fuels anymore. And there are days when it doesn't happen.
I'd be more than happy if that was the case. However, I'm still not convinced that by doing that, you're going to be doing anything good about saving the planet. That's my argument, because until everybody's doing that, there isn't really any point. And I don't see why Britain, which is the leader, the only country in the world, right, which we're always being told, we're not doing enough. These idiots are lying down in the street, gluing themselves to things, saying, oh no, we're not doing enough, stop lying to the people. Well, hang on, we are the only country in the entire world which has actually demonstrated a willingness to end carbon emissions and get zero carbon emissions by the year 2050 or 2030.
Right, 2050.
I can't remember.
No, they're now, the Lib Dems
they're now saying it should be 2030. But the point is, we're the only country that have done it. The only country
and by the way,
the entire world.
Here's a counter argument as well. I do think it smacks a little bit of paternal colonialism.
It does.
Well, we invented the Industrial Revolution. We've burnt more carbon than anybody. And now we're telling India and Bangladesh.
Well, except we're not, though. No, we're not.
Well,
that's exactly what we're not doing. They're doing whatever they like.
Yeah, no, we are saying they should do it, though.
But there are people here who are saying they've got the right to do it because we started it. I mean, that's how deranged the argument has become.
But it wouldn't bother you, that, because you don't believe in it in the first place.
Well, it's not that I don't believe in it. There's nothing to believe in, right? There's nothing to believe in. It's like saying, do you believe in God?
You could, and you would get half the world saying, yeah.
Yeah, they do. Half the world believes in climate change. Half the world used to believe.
But half the world's going to be right.
No, because this is the argument that is wrong, right? Just because a lot of people think the same thing doesn't make it true. Half the world thought the Earth was flat. It doesn't make the Earth flat.
No, of course not.
In the same way that just because loads of people all agree with each other about something they know nothing about, it doesn't make it right.
But to be fair, when the whole world thought the Earth was flat, science came along and said, actually, guys, it's round. And everyone went, oh, right. Now, what's happening with climate change is everybody is looking there And science has come along and said, we've got a major crisis, and half the world's going,
well,
nah,
actually, no.
not having it, because
no.
it was hot in Tenerife and it was
you're
cold
wrong there,
in Scotland.
because the International Panel on Climate Change have now admitted that they've used the term climate emergency because it sounds better.
Yes.
They've actually said that in a statement, that the word emergency is being used purely and simply because it sounds like it's
the
more...
Guardian said the same thing. They changed. We're not going to talk about...
Yeah, we're not going to change...
We'll talk about a climate crisis, I think.
Yeah,
we'll talk about.
climate crisis, climate emergency, all of these words, that does not denote an emergency.
How did we get onto ice packs in the Arctic?
You have to have some degree of scepticism about all of this stuff, particularly when it's being run by people who want to tax the backside off you so that they can get more money to do more stuff. I mean, I'm hearing about this Swansea lagoon project now,
the
which
tidal
has been,
thing.
which everywhere they've tried before has been a complete and utter unmitigated disaster. Right? They don't know how to do it. You know, most governments that have run this country are not very good at anything.
Have you been to Swansea lately?
Not lately. I've been there once or twice before.
I mean, I have to be honest, and I apologise to people who live and work in Swansea.
The Gower Peninsula is very nice.
It's amazing, and there are parts of Swansea which are great, and they've got a great football team.
Very nice.
Yeah, they've got a great football team. They've got a couple of really good
Catherine
hotels.
Zeta-Jones is from there.
But there are parts of Swansea today that reminded me of Liverpool in the late 70s.
I once
it was
went
quite
to
distressing.
a Labour Party conference there, Welsh Labour, because the Mirror was involved with the Labour Party. I think we sponsored it, in fact. And I stayed in the Holiday Inn in the middle of Swansea, and in one of the worst streets I've ever seen in my life. It was horrendous.
And so there's my question: how much is this tidal thing costing?
Billions. I've no idea. I mean, think of a number.
I mean,
don't worry, somebody will come up with some money for you.
When the European Union came in with several hundred million for the regeneration of Liverpool, at a time, by the way, when the Tory government was openly talking about running the place down. That made a huge effect on Liverpool, you know, and has resulted in this great resurgence. And it's a terrific place now, as opposed to the dump, frankly, that I grew up in. Swansea, part of Swansea are a dump, I'm afraid to say. And I would wonder whether that money they're spending on that tidal experiment wouldn't be better invested in the city centre.
But this is the thing now, because of all of the amount of the grants and the monies that are given out, you know, they all now have to be tied in with some kind of green manifesto. You know, the mayor of Bristol or the leader of the council or whatever it is has apparently declared that in 2021 they're going to be the first diesel-free city in Britain. Now, how's that going to work if you've got a business where you're a guy driving a van, self-employed, the only thing you can do, the only way you make money is by driving around Bristol in a van?
Well, by the way,
what are you going to do?
The reason I bought the electric car was I was driving a big diesel Volvo, which I paid a lot of money for 3 years ago, and I've got next to nothing for it now.
Well, that's why you should never bother buying cars.
Yeah, but I bought a diesel because the government said that was the...
Well, that was Gordon Brown,
really
wasn't it?
Cheated
and
on that
Ed
one,
Miliband, right? But I was told, I mean, I've got a new diesel car, brand new, and I'm told that the actual emissions coming out of that are probably cleaner than what's going in.
Do you use this AdBlue stuff?
Yeah.
So
well, I mean, the last car I had that as well.
Yeah.
And so they're incredibly well put together, very unwasteful, right? And actually a lot cleaner than almost any other car driving around, which is a petrol car. Right? So, listen, I'm more than happy for us to do things which make the planet better and create less pollution. That's great. But it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to change anything about the temperature of the planet or whether or not the ice caps are going to melt. It's not going to make any difference what sort of bloody car you're driving around.
I do agree completely that hysteria is pointless and actually retrograde in this argument. And there's a lot of hysteria.
And there's a lot of people doing things because it looks good.
Yes, of course.
And of course you can't disagree with them because that looks bad.
I mean, it's like when they have Pride March, the gay march through London, and suddenly every street in Oxford Street has got huge Pride banners and they're showing their LBGTQ plus credentials. You know, I mean, it's as phony as anything. Of course it is. You know, but we live in a world full of marketing now.
Yeah, I know.
It is a market-driven world.
But I'm not quite sure when it happened. You know, I think it happened sometime during the leadership and the premiership, if you like, of Tony Blair. Because I was going to ask you if you remember the night that Tony Blair won, and it was a massive sort of landslide victory. And it was a brilliant time to be alive, if you like, because suddenly he was a guy young enough to have young children in Downing Street. You know, the triumphalist kind of walk up Downing Street with his kids and all these people. And then suddenly we found out it was all crap. That they were all staged. That everyone who was there was actually a member of the Labour Party and they'd been asked to show up. And it was nothing to do with this kind of idea that we all wanted to believe, that it was just everyone in Britain was so happy
Things can only get better.
He was a nice, modern, young Prime Minister who was going to change everything.
I think there was a lot of sense that he was a fresh face and he was intelligent, articulate, and he had,
had
a moderate set of policies.
And we'd had a long time with the Tories in charge,
yes.
which had become very toxic.
Yeah, I mean, I think when if you can safely pick the song "Things Can Only Get Better" as your theme tune, it's an indication that you're starting from a fairly low base.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I mean, that particular band was
D. Ream, wasn't it?
D. Ream.
Yeah.
Wasn't
the manager
it that
used
guy,
to live in my house.
That guy Cox, isn't it?
No, Brian Cox.
Yeah, Brian Cox. He was in it.
Was he?
Yeah, the guy who's the astrophysicist.
I thought he was in another one, but maybe.
No, I think he was in that.
I'm
pretty sure. How can you not know about music? Come from Liverpool.
Well, I know about the Beatles.
Yeah, but that's not good enough. What about the Farm?
And the Farm.
You must know about
a little bit about the Farm. Yeah.
And Freddie and the Dreamers. Freddie came from Liverpool.
Yeah, and You Spin Me Right Round. Who sang that one?
Oh, the guy...
Pete Burns, was it?
Yeah, that's it.
He used to sell records in Matthew Street. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know him as well.
I mean, they have got a reason. They have got, I think he is dead now. Yeah, he ended up with some really bizarre looking features, didn't he? He had too much plastic surgery.
I think that's right.
Yeah. No, but I mean, Brian Cox, he's another one. Yeah. Who, because he's an expert in certain things, wants us to believe him about everything else.
That bugs me a lot.
And
as much as I love Gary Lineker, right? And I do,
I don't.
Well,
he's blocked me on Twitter.
I think he's great, but I do wonder. I don't object to people saying, "Stick your nose out, mate. You're a footballer. You know, why are you suddenly talking about European Union legislation and stuff like this?" I'm not saying he doesn't have the right to an opinion. But if you've got a huge Twitter base or social media base because of something else, you can manipulate it now to point messages to people that really you've got no knowledge of yourself. So.
No, absolutely right. Listen, I don't mind what anybody says, but I'd much prefer it if they listened to people who were critical of them rather than actually, I mean, Coldplay was in the news, right, a few weeks ago, last week. Talking about how they're not going to play any more shows around the world because, until we work out a way of making it environmentally beneficial.
They're just going to make everyone fly to see them.
I mean, this is it. And then they do 2 shows in Amman in Jordan, right, without any people allowed to come.
Right.
When they beamed it around the world, the one at sunset and one at sunrise. Nice marketing idea. Guess what? They did it the same day they had the new albums coming out.
Oh,
right?
man.
But,
that sucks.
He said, I was watching an interview that he was giving about it, and he said that he's not going to go to Glastonbury anymore because somebody had been horrible about him on Twitter, basically.
Dear me.
And he kind of went, some guy was like, what's he doing there wearing those stupid trousers and dancing about? And he said, sometimes these things can hurt you.
Yes.
You want to have a look at my Twitter feed, mate, if you think that's bad. The point is that, if you're in the public eye, unfortunately, we live in this world now where you have to put up with it. I mean, I feel very bad for politicians who get endless amounts of grief from people in some very unpleasant ways. I mean, I will criticise politicians and I will have a go at them on Twitter, but I won't, issue ghastly threats to them or anything like that.
I mean, there's some
There's some really horrible people out there.
But here's my thing about Twitter is that in the 50s in the States, there was this guy, Marshall McLuhan, who was an expert writing about the media, and he came up with this very famous phrase, which is, the medium is the message.
Yes.
And what he meant by that was that if you're reading a newspaper or that you're watching the television or there's an advert on the radio, it's not just a thing in itself. The way it's being put to you is very much part of the message, if not all of it.
Also, people used to be very loyal in terms of where they got their news from.
That's right.
Now that's
all
changed, isn't it?
So the Twitter thing worries me because of the brevity of the arguments. So now everybody is making arguments in a sentence or two, which about very, very sophisticated problems. Yeah. Also, people are rushing to have an opinion because you've got to be the first to have this hot take. So it worries me when I see politicians. Sajid Javid does this all the time, where he comes out and he blurts out some opinion. And then you've got to stand by it. Because in conversation, you can change your mind. But once you've written something down, you have to stand by it. Right. So my theory is that a lot of these white papers that are coming out of the government now that are about to become law, they started life as a quick hot take on Twitter. Yeah. And I just think that is the dog, the tail wagging the dog.
Well, that's certainly
really
not something you want to see. No. David Lammy, I would suggest, is also quite sort of quick off the stops to kind of get it stuck in. I remember he put out a tweet of Boris Johnson supposedly getting heckled going into Tory party conference, which turned out to be a 4-year-old video or something, which wasn't even a true video. He never really apologised for that. And you can probably find all sorts of different examples on both sides of the
I
aisle.
think it's very, very dangerous.
But I worry as well, like you do, about the sort of Twitterisation of real life, so that people are now acting very much, and this is kind of bringing me back in a way to people getting shouted at in the street. It's the kind of thing you would do on Twitter, because people always say, "Oh, you wouldn't do that in real life." Well, now they do. You know, I'm fortunate enough to, when I see people that recognise me, generally speaking, they're nice and they go, "Hi, Mike, how are you?" Blah blah blah.
And I have actually seen that. In
you
real
have
life.
actually seen it, yeah.
It's horrible to witness,
Was it
but
Leicester Square or
they do seem to love you out there. Yeah,
I know. But the thing is, there are other people who do what I do, who get actually screamed at in the street for having views that people don't like, which is pretty awful.
Well, yes. There are a couple of people, though, who play the game so obviously to create that anger. I've got no sympathy for them. Katie Hopkins, for instance.
I've got no sympathy for her.
No sympathy for her at all.
No.
You know, that's her game, is to wind people up.
Yeah.
But people like Julia
and also, she's not a proper journalist, by the way. So
No,
I mean, she doesn't really have any qualification for doing the things that she does and saying the things that she says.
Julia Hartley-Brewer, right? I don't think I agree on a single thing with her. And in the past, we've had some sharp exchanges on Twitter. But never beyond into abuse. Never into abuse, personal abuse. That just stop it. You know, what's the point?
Exactly, and there is no reason for it. But I've often said, and I think I put a tweet out to this effect over the weekend, that, you know, all these people having opinions, I don't actually think is a very good idea. You know, and I know that's going to sound
sounds like you're
supercilious. And
well, it sounds a bit elitist, if you don't mind me saying.
It does sound a bit elitist, but it's not based on their education or their class or anything like that.
Just based on whether they agree with you or not?
No, not at all. I love it. Listen, you know me, I love arguing. You know, if everybody agreed with me, it's not much. I start taking the opposite view. I mean, I did one the other day, right, where we've got this argument going on at home about whether it's winter or not, right? I put out a tweet in which I said, you know, this is 2 weeks.
It's late November, of course it's winter.
Well, hang on, about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
What a fantastic winter's morning. You know, there was a bit of frost as I was walking the dog, you know. And I get told by the mother of my children, it's not winter, it's autumn.
Right.
I went, well, it looks like winter to me. It's freezing cold. There's frost on the ground. It's the middle of November. I'm calling it winter. You know,
you've made that call, right? Talk Radio has made the call.
Yeah, so I've made the call. I then get people going, no, it's autumn.
Good debate, though.
You know, and so this weekend, right? I took the dog to the woods. Beautiful kind of carpet of orange and brown and red leaves.
I
really,
saw
really
a
gorgeous.
picture of yours on Facebook. It looked lovely.
Yeah, it was really lovely. And I said, what a lovely autumn day. Another guy comes on and says, no, it's winter. And I thought, this is perfect for me, because I can now make the entirely opposite argument.
That's right.
And defend myself for saying it was autumn. But I couldn't be bothered in the end, so I didn't do it. But that's the kind of nonsense that goes on.
Well, just as an aside on that, I spent a lot of time working, as you know, in Latin America.
Yes.
And over there, they have a day, and it's like, tomorrow is winter.
Yeah.
And it's all based on the equinox.
America's a bit like that.
We don't have it.
America's like that. America, basically, you have Labor Day and Memorial Day, right?
Yeah.
Labor Day is the day, I think, in the September, the end of the summer. Summer ends, that's it, right? So if you're a member of a golf club, you know, they take all the greens off.
You're playing off winter tees.
Winter greens. They shut all the swimming pools. Same on Memorial Day. Doesn't matter what weather is. Memorial Day, which I think is sometime in May, towards the end of May. Swimming pools are all open, and summer begins.
Great. Well, it's very British.
And everybody knows.
Lovely and British to argue about the weather more than anything.
It is. I mean, funnily enough, when I used to go to the States, my sister's husband at the time used to say to me, "What is it with you Brits? All you talk about is the weather and how you got here," which is true. Because you'd get up to my sister's place in Connecticut and we'd go, "Oh yeah, we know it was terrible on 95." So we came off at Danbury and we went up Route 1 for a while. And he's going, "Why are you telling us this? I don't care how you got
remember,
here."
In fact, I think you were with my wife at an event and somebody was boring you about how they got here on the tube, and my wife was going, "We're not interested in directions and stuff."
Exactly. Because there is, I mean, my daughter calls it dad directions whenever I give her directions to get anywhere, because she's like, "Can you just drop a pen, you know, so that I can see where you are?" And I'm like, "No, I don't know how to do that." So
I was told something fabulous, which you may appreciate, because you worked a long time in the States. But I was in the States last week for a couple of days, and somebody said to me, the thing that freaks Americans out, that we do all the time, is when we say to them, "You all right?"
Yeah.
And it says they just don't get it.
Right.
It's like they think you're asking them if there's something personal and physically wrong with them.
Like
what do you know? You know?
It's amazing, isn't it? It really is a very different country. I mean, the phrase from from what's his name, Oscar Wilde,
Yeah.
two nations separated by a common language.
That's right.
Is very true, isn't
That's
it?
right.
Because the number of times you can be standing, particularly outside of New York. I mean, New York is a kind of law unto itself, but they come across as incredibly thick, don't they? Just because.
I'm going there in a couple of months.
Yeah.
No comment.
But it's not that they're thick, because they're obviously not thick,
Yeah.
but they're just kind of, they're slow, they don't get it, they're kind of like just looking at you like, huh?
Are you Mike Graham?
Yeah. Huh? And, you know, I mean, irony just is, I mean, one of the reasons I used to have to come back to Britain quite a lot when I lived there was that I just needed a big dose of sort of irony.
Yeah.
I mean, my daughter says the same thing living in Dubai. You know, she says she just loves coming back to London because you get that kind of energy and the kind of negativity that we have. And
cynicism.
The kind of complete cynicism and just slagging people off.
Yeah.
And because one of the great ones was, it was around about the time Extinction Rebellion actually were in Canning Town getting pulled off the train. Yeah. And somebody had put out just a couple of hours earlier, you know, what would you say to people visiting London for the first time? And somebody just went, get out of my way. And it's very like that. Yeah. You know, and you notice it as well. I don't know whether you notice it when you go, if you go back up north, or if you go. I mean, when I was in Scotland, people are a lot friendlier in Glasgow,
no question,
than they are in London.
Well, you suddenly have conversations with people.
Yeah.
You know, and then you try it in London if you've kind of slipped into the habit.
Yeah, if you forget,
people do start looking at you really scared.
Something wrong with you.
Yeah.
What are you talking to me for?
Yeah.
Do you know, I met my neighbour for the first time.
Yeah.
Who lives literally in London. I've got three doors on each floor, right? I'm at the top, but I was coming home. I was at an event. You'd be quite proud of me. I was at a panel event where I was debating whether this was the angriest election of all time.
Oh, great.
At a think tank inside King's College London, right?
Ooh, very
so
nice.
I'd moved up in the world since you've been away.
Considerably.
Yeah. And of course, we won't say actually it's not the angriest election of all time, because actually everybody's quite calm. Yeah. But anyway, it was raining, right? So I walk in, there's a door at the bottom of the building. I walk in and I'm vaguely aware of this woman behind me to my right shoulder, and I realise that she's waiting for me to go in the door. So I'm like, okay, hold the door open for her, and said something like, pretty miserable out there, isn't it? She didn't answer, right?
Yeah.
So I walk up the first flight of stairs. She's still behind me. Second flight of stairs, still behind me. Third flight of stairs. There's only now 3 doors, right? So I go to my door. She goes to one on the left. I'm going, oh, we finally meet at last then? She still didn't say anything. I went in my door. I've never seen her since. Probably won't see her again.
Incredible.
Don't know who she is.
That is
Don't know what her name is.
That is London. Yeah.
Incredible. You know, I mean, you would think. I mean, I've been living there for 10 years. Yeah. I'm not sure she's been there that long, because I think somebody else used to live there.
I occasionally get recognised on public transport. Unfortunately, it's not as me. It's as Pep Guardiola.
Actually, people have said that. Because we should tell the people watching this that we do a podcast together, actually.
The Thought Police.
Yeah. And the picture, you do actually, in that picture, you look like Pep Guardiola. So maybe now that the magic's worn off a bit, well, you know, you may wish to...
yes. Get my teeth done and grow some hair.
Deny
Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah, mate, exactly right. Yeah. Well, he's the new hero, isn't he? Well, what about Jose Mourinho coming back?
Amazing.
That is incredible. I mean, you never thought that was
to be fair to him, I thought he was. Did you see the press conference when he was?
No.
He was quite amusing.
Was he?
He was talking.
Is he back to being funny then?
He was talking about sleeping in the Spurs training ground and lovely pillows they've got. And he wears the Spurs pajamas, and you know, it's like he was
winding everybody up.
I mean, I quite like Mourinho. I don't think he's a terrific coach though, but I like the way he goes about it.
I do, and I think
wouldn't swap him for Klopp.
I think that whole Man United thing was all a bit of a joke, wasn't it? I think he just kind of was playing a part.
Yeah.
Because he just didn't want to ever be happy.
Yeah.
Because he thought, if I'm happy, I'm going to look as if I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm unhappy, it's going to look as if they're not doing the right thing.
You know how he got into football, don't you?
Yeah, he was translator, wasn't he?
Bobby Robson's translator at Barcelona.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you another little simple, strange quirk is that apparently whenever he goes to Los Angeles, he likes to go to a place called the Montage Hotel.
Oh, right.
Which, when I was there, I went to, because I did this mad thing where we all went out one night, funnily enough, using an Uber, and the Uber guy picked us up in a very nice big sort of Chevy Suburban, which is like the big car that you used to drive around
fantastic,
in. Beautiful, yeah. You feel like you're in...
about 4 miles to the gallon.
Well,
I ran out of petrol in one in the Colorado desert. And the guy had to bring 2 jerry cans because he said 12 miles won't get you there. So
well, I had a Yukon when I was there.
Yeah, which is slightly smaller.
No, it's massive.
Oh, yeah,
that's right.
That's right.
9-seater or something. Yeah. The thing was the size of a bus.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I didn't want to drive it into LA, so I said to this guy, you know, what would you charge me for, you know, driving us around for the day? We want to go and see the Hollywood sign and all that. because there's no apparently easy way of getting public transport into LA.
Oh, no.
This is what another question about the Green Brigade, right? You've got 8 lanes highway, so you've got 16 lanes of traffic, literally at a standstill,
That's right.
going both ways for most of the day.
It's bizarre.
And you're driving an electric car around in London thinking you're making a difference. I mean, you're not, right? That's the point. So there was a train station in Long Beach where my son lives, and I said to him, what if I drive to the train station and park the car there? Oh, no, you can't park there. There's no parking. So I'm like, so how are they trying to encourage people not to use cars? He's like, what? I said, well, you know, aren't they encouraging people not to use cars? They'd be stupid.
It's LA.
You know, it's LA. Everybody's got a car. Anyway.
But you know what is massive in LA now are these electric scooters.
Yes.
They're everywhere.
Funnily enough, my producer came back from Berlin and said they're doing that there a lot. And I think they might even be run by Uber. Yeah. Where you just literally pick it up and they charge something, I think it's something like 20 cents a minute.
Yeah. Well, there's a company in Sweden called Voi, V-O-I, and they have got them in Stockholm, and my wife went over. They're fantastic.
Yeah, listen,
it's absolutely the future.
I would use one of those in London to get into work because it's probably easier than getting on the tube when I have to normally wait for 3 or 4 trains.
For the last mile or so of a journey, it's perfect. I mean, you wouldn't want to do 10 miles.
No.
But to get there on a bus or a tube and then take the last mile, perfect.
Yeah, I mean,
but they're banned in London.
Are they?
They're banned in London because they are self-propelling.
Are they not banned just on the road, though?
No. They are banned completely, right?
So I've seen people on it.
And they risk having them confiscated, although I don't believe anyone has had it yet.
Right.
But it's because they're self-propelling.
Okay.
Even the electric bikes, you put some energy into it, so they're okay. But anything self-propelling is classified as a vehicle and needs to be licensed.
Really?
Which is ridiculous to me.
Well, that does seem mad, doesn't
Absolutely
it? Especially
nuts.
if it's working quite well elsewhere.
Totally, yeah.
Because I still quite marvel at these electric bikes that you don't actually need any kind of docking system for.
They're
you just
incredible.
literally leave them on the street.
Yeah, but don't people come along at the end of the night, don't they, with fresh batteries?
Yes, probably. But
they'd
what
be
I'm saying
charging
is that you could just leave them in
Oh,
places.
yeah,
You don't have to, because when they brought the Boris bikes in, you know, because I don't live, my London flat is not that far away from the office, and it's maybe less than 2 miles, maybe.
Yeah.
I could probably walk it if I wanted to. But I've often thought, if I could only take a bike home, I'd take a bike home, right? Especially in the summer.
Well, why don't you?
Well, in those days, because I didn't have anywhere to put it, I would literally had to throw it in the river, you know, which is what I would have done.
Very extravagant.
Yeah, no, seems extravagant.
You see this guy. I'll pick a new one up tomorrow.
Because I'd have had to park it somewhere so far away that it wouldn't be worth taking it there. But now, with these electric ones, I might start getting into that.
And they go so quickly.
Yeah.
I thought there was a guy on a motorbike going past this hedge, but it wasn't. It was a fella.
Well, one of the things they're doing in my street, or the very route home that I take, they're making the road only for use by black cabs, bikes, and buses.
Fantastic.
Well, it's not fantastic if you want to drive down it.
Yeah, well, you can't.
If I want to drive into work, well, it's not. How's it going to be nice and fresh?
Kids can cross the street without fear of getting run over.
Oh, what? But not by bike. Somebody on a cyclist. These are the most dangerous people around.
I know a couple of people who've been seriously hurt by mad cyclists.
Well, have killed people.
But that's another thing you can't slag off is cyclists.
Oh no!
Without getting people
listen,
coming round.
I've had them all. I've had them all sort of in various times attack me.
Yeah.
And they all kind of pile on.
Yeah.
Whether it's the FBPE brigade or the vegans, the cyclists I've had.
Yeah.
I even had some mad Spanish people once because I put out a picture of some chorizo in a paella, which apparently traditional paella doesn't have chorizo.
Oh, really?
In.
I didn't know that.
But I've actually got a cookbook for paella, which you can make with all sorts of different things.
I'm loving your pronunciation, by the way.
Paella, thank you. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's probably the place I've been to most in my life as a foreign country is
Great
Spain.
place, yeah.
I love Spain. I love the weather. I love the people. I love the ambience.
If
the
I ever
lifestyle.
got enough money, which is very unlikely, but if I did, I'd love to buy a place in Spain and retire there.
Yeah.
I'd love the place.
Yeah. I mean, I'm currently, for some reason, being shown lots of pictures of chateaux and manoirs by the mother of my children, who thinks obviously that she's going to win the lottery or something. But you'd be amazed what you can buy for like 400,000 quid in France.
Yeah,
literally swimming pools. You know, a friend of mine bought one.
Yeah.
Bought a manoir. Which apparently used to be a hunting lodge for Louis XIII or something, right? Wow. And he'd sold his house in Connecticut, and his wife was French, moved back to France. Yeah. And when we arrived to stay with us, this was many years ago, he said, well, you'll be in the wing, at that wing over there. He had an entire wing for us to stay in. He had a chapel.
Amazing.
Which he hadn't even renovated yet. And he had a swimming pool. It was incredible. And he bought for the same money that he sold basically a 4-bedroom house in America. Wow. He bought this manoir.
Well, you could sell a flat in Clerkenwell and, 1-bedroom flat wouldn't get you.
Oh, I know. Well, I mean, I've got friends who moved out of London, say, 10 years ago,
Yeah.
sold their place for about 200,000. It's now worth 1,200,000.
Must be kicking themselves.
And they do, but there's no point, is there?
Yeah.
Because it's like you never had the money.
Yeah.
So if you'd
Yeah.
stayed living there, you probably would have had even
It would
less
still
money.
drive you nuts, though.
I suppose it would. I've got a sort of very odd relationship with property because I've owned property and I've rented.
Yeah.
And almost always I've made money selling it.
Yeah.
But I've hardly ever seen any of it.
But you know what? You said something earlier about you're a fool for buying a car. And you're absolutely right. I did the maths. And I'd lost 16...
I lease cars now, that's all I do.
I lost 16 grand on that car over 2 years.
Yeah. I
So-
mean, literally, as soon as you drive it out the showroom, it's halved
Well,
in value.
that wasn't even a new car. That was like a second-hand car. It cost me 25 and I sold it for 8 or something like that.
Right.
So I could have easily leased a fabulous spec Mercedes-Benz for that.
You could have done.
And just handed it back and moved on to the next
And then
thing.
every 3 years they give you a new one.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
how it
yeah.
works. And also they pay for everything that's wrong with it.
Yeah.
If it breaks down, if you need new tyres.
Well, I'm from that generation, though, where we did rent stuff. You know, like, do you remember everybody rented their telly?
Yeah.
Nobody owned a telly.
No.
I mean, you paid rediffusion 57 pence a week or something.
Vision
for-
hire or something
Vision
like that.
hire
Yeah.
for a telly that was like the size of
I
a-
actually, bizarrely, my dad knew the guy that ran Vision Hire. Because he used to play golf with him.
Yeah.
He was part of some
Right.
press golf society thing. And we once went to his house. He had this massive house in Mayfair.
Yeah.
Right. And we were just kids. I mean, but I remember thinking how weird it was because I walked in and in the huge big painting in the hallway, I realised wasn't a painting, it was a photograph of him and his wife.
Yes.
But massive, giant.
Wow.
You know,
Blown
like
up,
the sort of thing that Donald Trump would have.
Yeah.
And he just kind of went, that's a bit weird. I never really got over it. Again, I've talked about it for years and years and years. I've never been keen on going to people's houses and they've got pictures of themselves.
No, even you know those ones with the kids and they've all been styled up.
Well,
and
do you know those? I think there's a website, isn't there, for the awkward pictures.
That's right.
Of these
Yeah.
really,
Oh,
like
they
these
are-
American
but
ones
they're
with the guys with the guns. And here are my kids. They've also got a gun.
They're hilarious.
And like they just look really, really weird.
But that's an extension of another thing that I really am beginning to hate, which is the perfect life on Facebook syndrome.
Yeah.
You know, where people are posting only the good stuff about their kids or the wonderful holiday they're having and you're not.
Yeah.
You know, and everything's perfect. And you're sitting there going through Facebook and say, well, hang on, my life's an absolute
Yeah, but
car
see, I
crash.
hear this from people saying, oh, but the trouble is other people then feel as if their life isn't worthwhile.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, why? I must have some ridiculous feeling
No,
of
I
self-worth.
wouldn't accuse you of being one of them.
No, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is I don't look at any other pictures and go, oh, I wish I was doing that.
Yeah.
Or what am I doing
Well,
wrong
I don't
with my
know.
life?
I was looking at, I'm friends with Piers.
Yeah.
And I was looking at
Well,
him.
when he was doing the boat pictures.
Well, exactly.
That was
there
a bit
you go.
much.
So there he was.
But I
in
didn't wish I was him, though.
No, but I wished I was on that boat.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should ask
And
him.
I started thinking, how can I earn enough money to be on that boat? And I decided I'd have to live to be about 240. So
But you know, I've got the invite for this year's party. So
I haven't had it.
Well, maybe you're not getting it then.
You're kidding?
Yeah.
When
Well,
did it
do you
come?
remember we agreed, though, if one of us gets it, we're
would
both
swap.
going.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I just got it.
Can I just get attention on this camera? Piers Morgan. What? This happened last year as well, right? I had to phone you up and pretend I had something to talk to you about just so you could then say, oh yeah, it's the party. What is it? Just say it out front to me. If you don't like me, I won't come. Anyway, I'll be there. Will you? I'll come as your plus one.
You come as my plus one.
great.
That'll do. This has been Off Air with Mike Graham.